As long as schools remain closed, our teachers will continue to instruct our students, no matter the grade level and no matter the subject. The learning will not stop. Welcome back to another episode of One Troy at Home, a limited podcast series featuring interviews with teachers and where we take a look at what education looks like during these unprecedented times. I'm your host, creative content producer Thomas Butcher, and today my guest is a 7th grade math teacher at Baker Middle School, Lindsey Becker. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Lindsey, everyone's at home right now, and everyone's situation is a little different. When we were setting this up, you said that we should plan on it around the time that your kids would be napping. So my first question, did it work? Did we time it out right?
It did. It worked perfectly. Both my girls are asleep, so I got my time to myself now.
It does make me wonder because, what's it been like for you trying to balance working from home while also managing life as a parent of young ones?
It's been difficult, but I actually feel like going through this experience has made me have a lot of appreciation for stay-at-home moms, but also moms who have older kids. So they're, navigating home life, their kids' schoolwork, all the things that come along with being a mom as well. So I think it's kind of a blessing that my girls aren't, I'm not having to manage their school life at all right now, but it's busy.
If we rewind for a moment and think back to 6 or 7 weeks ago when all of this started and we had to prepare for this new mode of operation, what was it like when it was all just started happening so fast?
I think it was definitely shocking for sure. I feel like, you started hearing about COVID-19 and then all of a sudden it was like we're out of school for the rest of the year. And I think that it definitely threw everyone a curveball for sure to be able to quickly pick up and figure out what type of content we were going to deliver to students in just a couple days. And it was amazing to see the district kind of turn it around within a couple days and figure something out.
You have experience as tech chair for your school, and you're also involved. What did you say? Innovation coach?
Innovation coach. Yep.
So with those under your belt, what did you do to help prepare others in your building? Was it difficult to get everyone on the same page about how it was going to move forward?
I think as a district, we are in a very good position because we've had Schoology for, I think this is the 6th year. If we were in the position where we didn't have an LMS, an online, management system where we were doing grades, it would be very difficult for our teachers. But because we've taken the time to, figure out how to create online content, even just publish resources online for our courses, it gave kind of us a leg up as well as our students a leg up because they had experienced this before. They've interacted with it, pretty much all of their middle school life. So it was kind of a seamless transition. For me personally, I do a lot of things on Schoology already, and a lot of kind of video lessons and things like that. But it was a big jump. We had to really get in there and help other teachers that were not used to that format. It's a very big changeover. You're asking teachers to completely upend everything they're used to if they didn't have that online content. But it was cool because everyone adapted and we kind of learned we can do this.
At this point, what does your class look like these days? How has it changed?
So my class, it was actually pretty easy to jump to an online format because I had created online lecture videos myself throughout the years. So I have video content for everything that I taught. So I was not doing that face-to-face, one-on-one instruction. So my students were used to seeing me on a video and then we would just work in class together so that we could talk about the practice and kind of do the hard part, together. And the easy part they were able to do at home. But this is more difficult because now we don't have that collaboration time. And that was a huge piece of my classroom is not doing math by yourself, working with others and talking through the steps with others. And I think that that's a big part that the kids are missing right now is they have to use their own brains. Sometimes their parents too, but they're really kind of, they're very isolated in their thinking as well. So, we're not able to get to those same kind of realizations or conclusions as we were in class before.
So has that been something that's really surprised you? Is there anything else like that? Is there anything that maybe you didn't originally expect as we move towards this?
I going into this, I thought that most of our kids would view this as like, awesome, summer vacation early. I don't have to go in school. I can be in my pajamas all day. But I really underestimated how much, just social interaction that our kids, they love school for that reason. And when that's completely pulled out from under them, I mean, obviously they all have millions of avenues of social media, but it's just not the same, and we've noticed that too as adults, is it's not the same, doing a Zoom call like this is not the same as being face to face. And I think they really struggle with that. So I've seen a lot of my kids just, jump on Zoom sessions just to say hi. I'll have office hours if they need help and they don't have to be there, but they'll just say, oh, I just wanted to say hi and see who else logged in. And so that's been a hard adjustment, for everyone.
Absolutely. It is good to hear, though, that there is still an attempt, at least, to kind of keep that sense of community going, because that's definitely a huge part of what school is, everything. So I want to take us here because you're kind of, since you're a math teacher, I imagine you might have some opinions about this, but math is a subject that is kind of notorious for being difficult for a lot of people. It's the one that I always hear people say that they were never good at it. If they're talking about any subject they weren't good at, it's math. So is there truth to that? Maybe. I think that when someone doesn't get something like math right away, especially at a younger age, there's a tendency to label themselves as someone who isn't good at math. It's easy to say that because at this point, it's something that a lot of people do say openly. In other words, it's people who don't like math are very vocal about it. And as a result, students can carry that label with them all through high school, through college, and for the rest of their lives. So my question is, how do you, as a middle school math teacher, how do you try to convince your students that they can be good at math? Maybe, how can you make them feel like they can solve an equation, even if they don't get it the first time around?
So before all this, it's a little bit harder in this environment. But one of my biggest philosophies as a teacher is working with growth mindset thinking, and kind of, all that, the grit and all of those things that go along with like failure being a part of it. And that's kind of embedded into my teaching. And I always tell my students that it's actually one of my biggest goals. At the beginning of the year, I tell them, my goal is not to get you an A in this class. And I actually say I could care less if you get an A in this class or a D in this class, but I want you to learn something. And I also want you to leave with a growth mindset. And if you come to my classroom with a fixed mindset and you leave with a growth mindset, then I've achieved my goal. And we do that, it takes a lot of building and kind of tearing down a lot of walls that students are used to putting up in their learning. Our education system is kind of inbred into us that mistakes are bad and you need to hide away when you fail and things like that. So we do a lot of celebration with mistakes in class. I actually am obnoxious about it. If a kid makes a mistake, we have everyone cheer and we clap and we go crazy. And in the beginning, they're very shocked, like, what is this lady doing? But then by the end, they're like, oh, she made a mistake. She made a mistake. So they get more into it. But that they just kind of sharing those stories of, we're not there yet. And that's one of my biggest kind of catchphrases, I guess. If a kid, I will always add that to the end of their sentence. If they're saying things like, well, I don't understand this, and I'll say yet, or, I can't do this, and I'll say yet. And I think just that constant reminder is a little bit of me showing that I believe in them too. That it's not just it's not black or white. It's not I'm there, I'm not there. But it's a lot of, I would say, coaching is the biggest thing. Of you have to constantly hear those messages over and over again for you to change your thinking. You can't just hear it once and say, I'm going to have a growth mindset. It comes with a lot of failure and putting yourself, into situations that you're going to fail many times. And one of the ways in math that I do that specifically is offering retakes on my tests. We really work a lot with because of that yet. It's not a once and done. You're not expected to learn content in a day or two and master it. It might take weeks. It might take, 1 day or 3 days, and that's going to change throughout every section as well. So offering those retakes and encouraging kids to always get better every day kind of helps them develop that philosophy for themselves as well.
So it's something I also hear a lot as an argument is, I don't need math because I'm not going to need it in my career. I hear that one all the time. So maybe could you go through maybe some careers that you wouldn't expect where math is necessary, or even if it's not a huge part, why you just need to know math in your life? So
I'm actually going to go a complete other route here because, you always get that question as a teacher, when are we ever going to have to use this? And I found, I started off my career saying, well, this and this, you never realized that this, and I just felt like it didn't stick with kids. And I honestly am thinking that it's not really about the content so much. It's not about the equations and that kind of stuff. What it's about is critical thinking and all of those, those 21st century skills that we always say that everyone needs and that jobs are looking for. And so I try to, when we're talking about the growth mindset, to try to also change that philosophy of, you're not in a math class, you're in a thinking class, and you're learning how to think in different ways, and you're learning how to disagree with people when they don't, think your way, and you're also learning how to present new arguments. When someone says there's one way to do it, you're able to present different arguments and different viewpoints. And that takes that pressure off of like, I've got to get that A, I've got to do well, or I'm not going to do well in life. It's like, no, you could get a D in this class and you could be super involved in thinking and analyzing and sharing your ideas with others, and you could be super successful. So it's really that changeover between it's a content class versus this is how we learn how to think.
If I was in your position, I would always be bringing up Einstein and how he was a terrible student. Because that's,
and there's a lot of those examples.
So I ask all of this because after having this experience of the virtual classroom and just everything involved with this, what are you as the teacher going to take away from all of this as we look to the next school year and years to come?
That's a great question. I think that one of the things I've really learned is the importance of kind of having that independent time and allowing material and thinking to sink in. We don't necessarily have more time. If anything, we feel like we have less time for our content, but our students have more time with less distractions to kind of marinate in the material. And I've always pushed collaboration. We need to think through things together. But, I'm starting to see like the kids' scores on tests and things like that. And some students who maybe didn't do so well in class are doing a lot better with this home environment. And I'm thinking it's because they have time without that distraction to say, okay, it's my turn. It's on me now. I can't rely on other people to help me with this thinking. I've got to kind of work through it and get to that conclusion myself. So I think that it's put a little bit more ownership on students, but it shifts my thinking to how can I bring that back in the classroom and allow that independent, quiet thinking time almost.
If anything, it's definitely, this whole experience is going to be huge for character building, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how that shapes up in years to come. Mrs. Becker, thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I'm sure nap time can be sacred, so I very much appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Oh, thank you. Before we go, if you're listening to this, don't forget you can subscribe to TSD World Class Podcasts on your favorite podcast platform, where you'll find all kinds of content and resources. You can also connect on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you for listening, and be well.